I'm bringing up somebody who just is a storyteller sublime. The Bee is just a born artisan storyteller. She does this like nobody else. Truly, her stories are tremendously mesmerizing. So I'm always happy when she's here. Miss Libbe HaLevy.
Camp Cadi is a place where our spirits can be free, to be young, having fun, just the way we're meant to be, holding hands in the sunshine, making friends for a lifetime, learning skills we're so proud of. Camp Cadi, Camp Cadi, Camp Cadi is a camp for girls ages 12 to 17 who have been sexually abused. And this past summer I got to be their writing instructor. Amy Barth, the founder of Safe Girls, Strong Girls in Atlanta, the sponsoring nonprofit of Camp Cadi, she and I met when we did a web radio program together on surviving sexual abuse. When Amy asked me if I'd be willing to volunteer as the writing instructor for camp, I jumped at the chance. I arrived in Atlanta for 2 days of training and orientation. We, all the counselors, learned the histories of each of the girls. As bad as you can imagine, that bad and worse. Perpetrators included biological fathers, stepfathers, moms, boyfriends, grandfathers, older brothers, kids at school, neighbors, employers, addicts, internet scum. Some girls were with their family of origin, some adopted, others had been bouncing around in foster care. A few had already faced down their perpetrators in court, others were about to. I've worked extensively with adult survivors through writing workshops, coaching, activism, my own healing process. But kids, the responsibility I felt was enormous. We assembled at Camp Twin Lakes, a special needs camp about an hour outside of Atlanta. We shared the facilities that week with Camp Rainbow for children with cancer and Camp Crazy Legs for kids with spina bifida. They were a wild bunch. Our girls started to show up and their histories went out of my head as I realized they were just girls. The young ones a little scared and shy, the older ones pretending it was no big deal. And I was of an age to be grandmother to any of them. Ouch. Besides writing instructor, I was also a cabin counselor for the older girls, ages 15 to 17. As they settled in, I overheard conversations comparing their caseworkers, court cases, and judges, the relative merits of foster care versus adoption versus emancipated minor, the types of therapy they'd been through, their meds. Not exactly the same as sharing hair and makeup tips, though they got around to that as well. Camp ran from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., a non-stop rush of raucous, high-energy activities fueled by sugar and functioning adrenal glands. In the dining hall, deafening chants started before we finished chewing. We are going to do the wave, we're going to do the wave, and we've got spirit, yes we do, we've got spirit, how about you? A live, loud rock band played after breakfast and lunch. Every song came with energetic arm movements, a kind of sign language for lyrics. Baby, 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 oh! And yes, I finally learned that Justin Bieber is not just a name made up as a punchline. The therapist and I did the daily heavy lifting in terms of the girls' issues. Every morning we had all 3 cabins for an hour each. The therapist helped the girls with life skills, de-stressing techniques, and guided visualizations using the Serenity Prayer and quotes from Marianne Williamson. I led them in writing exercises, including letters to their younger self and their future self. Then they read their work out loud, were applauded, and we all gave them unconditionally positive feedback. I tried to impress upon the girls that writing is a recovery tool that is free, always available, and gives them a valuable record of their healing journey. I encouraged them to keep writing. Some of the girls were barely able to read and write, either from disrupted education, learning disabilities, or the side effects of their meds. Others were quite literate, and a few were what I would judge to be real writers. One 14-year-old who already journaled regularly showed remarkable literary skill. As we splashed in the pool one afternoon, I said, I can't wait to read your book. She looked at me like I was nuts and said, I'm not writing the book. I replied, that's what you think. Another girl, prone to teenage, to remind you of how lame you are, came up to me shyly after lunch one day and asked if she could read me something. It was a poem, a real poem, delicate, strong, deeply moving. At my ecstatic response, she shrugged like it was no big deal, then admitted she'd written lots of poems. I said I couldn't wait to be able to buy her first book of poetry and have her sign it to me. She gave me a mixed look of, and really? Before she walked away. Other than therapy and writing, the rest of the time camp was camp. Swimming, canoeing, ropes course, horseback riding, arts and crafts, drumming circle, campfires, s'mores. Each cabin wrote a song with the music instructor who recorded CDs for them. As a service commitment, in sewing class, the girls made cute little sundresses out of pillowcases for an impoverished community in Africa. This so they could understand that no matter how bad their experience is, they could still make someone else's life better. Over the week, I witnessed miracles. One of the first girls to arrive was so glum we couldn't coax more than 3 words at a time out of her. Another was judgmental and aloof, suspicious of everyone and everything. Then these two met and became inseparable for the rest of camp, giggling, sharing, comforting each other when the tears came. Turns out they live not far from each other. I can imagine them at each other's weddings, friends for life. Another girl, a tiny pre-adolescent, came to camp visibly depressed. Sadness clung to her. It was painful to see. Then, one day, I watched her ride a pony being led at a trot. A smile burst out of her. She couldn't help it, and from that point on, she became animated and participated fully, despite the difficult reality that awaited her back home. The last day, we had a ceremony on the lawn with the girls and their caregivers. Amy spoke of how every caterpillar eventually becomes a butterfly, and we opened little packets that released live butterflies into the air. Then came the goodbyes. The girl I told was writing a book, hugged me and whispered in my ear, "I promise you that I will continue to write." The poet looked me smack in the eye and said, "You will have the chance to read my book." There were many other triumphs. But here's the thing. Experts estimate that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused at least once before they turn 18. This is an epidemic in the millions, not counting adults who have already survived, but not necessarily found their healing. Sexual abuse is the ultimate elephant in this country's living room, the one that underlies drug and alcohol abuse, eating disorders, violent behaviors, sexual acting out, crime. Heal the child. The adult becomes healthy, breaks the cycle of abuse, and is able to pass that healing on. 1 in 3, 1 in 5. So how many girls do you think we had at Camp Cadi this year? 17, that's all. We reached only 17 girls. There are people right now who want to start Camp Cadi's in Michigan, Florida, California, but lack the funds. And this year's camp ran deeply in the red. It was free for the girls, but without an immediate $2,500 to cover expenses, there will be no Camp Cadi next year. That cannot be allowed to happen. We've got to give more girls a chance to heal. And we've got to help the boys and the adults as well, but that's another story. This is a cause, a journey, a passion, a calling, at least it is for me. If you feel moved to do something, you can donate at safegirlsstronggirls.org. And please, pass this video on to others you think would have an interest in the issue. Meanwhile, I plan for camp to happen next year and for me to be there as the writing instructor. And every year after that, because Camp Cadi, Camp Cadi, Camp Cadi is a place we love. Thank you.